All right, another video book review. This one is for The Man Who Was Thursday by G.K. Chesterton. My first novel by G.K. Chesterton. I'm about 10% through, actually almost 20% through his book Orthodoxy, which is far more nonfiction, him talking about his faith, I believe. And that was the first one I started, and I haven't finished it, but I really enjoyed his prose. Like, it's the way he's speaking. It was like, I remember the first time I read Gentleman in Moscow, I was like, wow, it's a joy to read the prose here, and it's witty and sarcastic in the best of ways, while also being biting with its words, in obviously a perfect way. If you read G.K. Chesterton, you've seen it. And so I decided to read a fiction book of his because I wanted to jump into fiction and get a little bit of a taste of that, but in fiction. So I saw that this was there, his highest rated fiction. So I jumped into it. And I must say, I am lukewarm on this book. I've seen others are incredibly happy with it and it's life-changing. Let me try to move this a little bit. There we go. Awesome. Anyways, but it wasn't for me. It certainly wasn't for me. This book is a fever dream, and it is, so that's gonna lower it a little bit for me, but it's not crazy if the meat of the book was compelling enough. But it, to me, was a fever dream with a really solid start, but as the book devolves into, hey, let's set this up, let's set up a we have 5 or 6 separate villains that are come out as villains, and you see them as villains, and our main characters taking them on one by one. And each of those, if you've read the book, I don't want to go into spoilers here, but each of them are falling flat for very specific reasons that you then, as a reader, can see a mile off. Like after the first one, like you can see a mile off, and it becomes kind of repetitive. And each of the instances, the kind of settings to get there for each of these characters, these villains, are interesting, I guess, but you can see through them and understand them and be like, okay, whatever. The writing is very well done, and the central battle in this book is like the battle against anarchy and anarchism, and why order matters in the world and the universe, and why it must be that way, and what you lose without it. And I thought that was cool, but a lot of it fell flat due to the humor that didn't really work for me at all. It was supposed to be a very humorous book. Definitely felt like a Discworld, where it was clever. It was definitely clever, but it was in no way making me laugh. I have laughed at some Discworld, but most of them that I've read, it's been okay, cool. Like that's interesting. I see where the joke was, but it didn't really land. And that's kind of where I was here with that. So that part of the book didn't work for me. It was witty, but not enough to make it so that I liked that more than if it stayed, or if it was an incredibly serious book, which is how I would have preferred this. Like, there was a scene that I thought could have been one of the coolest things in the book, for sure, but in some of the coolest things that I've ever read, which is our characters with their backs against the wall facing a mob of killers who have already fired on them, and with the allegories and the imagery, but not explicitly said. Actually, it is kind of explicitly said, but our character, all he has as a weapon is this kind of ornate metal, really well crafted metal like lantern that has a cross on it, and is it's religious in nature, but it's lit, and he's swinging it and bashing these folk with it as he charges headlong in, right? And I think that's such a cool bit of imagery, and could have been awesome in this book. And for a second I was like, oh my god, that's so cool, and everything that means. And then it falls flat, just like all the other ones that you can see a mile away. I was hopeful on that one, actually, and that was this, like, the last one, and you're like, okay, this could be really cool. And he just fell flat on his face. Flat on its face again. So a whole bunch of letdowns throughout the book, and the wittiness wasn't really there. It was there, but I wasn't, excited by it. It didn't make me laugh or anything. And then the overall, like, at the end, it kind of gets weird, and the main villain comes out to be something else, and you're seeing and you're like, okay, cool, I guess. And I get it how this guy and I don't want to spoil it, but obstacles are put in our main character's path, and how that relates to the main villain biblically is interesting. But again, it's not like, this isn't an issue or something that I care about too much. And so the the insights there are probably were really great in 1908, or I don't know, that's Orthodoxy when that was written. I don't know when this was written, but I've seen, you know, variations of what's being talked about in this played out in other formats. So it's not wholly new to me, and it's much like what's it called? Crime and Punishment. The central argument and the thing that's making you think in that book. The same with this. On both of those, I was like, oh, I've seen that done maybe better somewhere else, and I enjoyed it more there. And maybe the original work of that took a lot from this, but you know, it's kind of like the John Carter from Mars movie, when it's got the big gladiator scene, and you're like, oh, I saw this in Attack of the Clones. Like, it's exactly this kind of scene, and the awe and the majesty of it is kind of lost on you because you've already seen it in a kind of a ripoff on a work that's done later, but you saw the what is it, the copy before you saw the original, which takes away from it. But that's maybe a weird comparison. That's the word. It's after work. I've been working, so my brain doesn't work too well. Not a great choice to do a review while your brain doesn't work well, but that's the time I have, so I have to use it. I have to decide what to do with the time that's given to me, right? So that's where we are. I thought it was okay. Thought it was all right, but in the end, and really well written. Like, there were highlights that I did in this book that, you know, I do for amazing quotes, or really good quotes that make you go, oh, that was a great turn of phrase. I love that. I have not seen it done as well phrased as here. You know, there was a lot of that there. G.K. Chesterton, he's a fantastic writer, like nothing against that. He's one of the best I've read, but I think I really like his, for even the 10% of Orthodoxy that I've read, I've enjoyed that more than the entirety of The Man Who Was Thursday. And I will enjoy continuing Orthodoxy for sure. And I know I originally wanted to read Chesterton because he is an inspiration. At least he has influenced a lot of my favorite writers. A lot of my favorite writers and thinkers. You've got Owen Barfield, you've got J.R.R. Tolkien, you've got C.S. Lewis, to a lesser degree, because I'm not as big of a fan of C.S. Lewis's stuff, because I haven't read as much for him. But, you know, they're all a part of the Inklings, and they all kind of went off of Chesterton, and then Coleridge is another I want to kind of dive into, because that's another big inspiration for these writers. So that's kind of what I'm working through, and Chesterton is on that list, and I am, so out of whack again, but that's all right. So that's why I did that, and I'll continue reading Chesterton, but who knows if I'll do any reviews for a nonfiction religious piece, you know, kind of a weird one. But anyways, I would give it, what would I give it? I think I'd give it like a 7.4, 7.5 out of 10, because the prose really elevates it. Everything else is kind of meh. The 7.5, though, is really driven by the prose. All right, on to the next book.